For millennials, we don't know how to rest properly. Oh, sleeping in is almost like what? For me, this is for all the high achievers, especially those who deal with anxiety. And I just want to say it's okay. You are not broken, that you are not messed up. It doesn't mean you're less than, it only means that you care. And when you care, it matters. And when it matters, that means the stakes are high. Welcome to yet another episode of OMG, another podcast. How are you? Hope you are doing okay. Just love really being on set. Of course, if you don't know already, I am at Herway Studios, who are my production partners, and I hope you are doing well. So today's topic, what are we going to be talking about, is the high achieving guide for someone who is struggling with anxiety. I didn't even say that right because I've been thinking about this. The high achiever's guide to dealing with anxiety basically is what we're going to be talking about. And this one is very important to me because this anxiety is something that I have struggled with. And where it came from, I'm not too sure, but I think I have an idea. And that's what we're going to be unpacking in today's episode. So basically, how this came to me is that when you struggle with anxiety and that chronic overthinking, not resting, your brain is constantly working and running, and you want to get things right, is that you realize that you actually don't necessarily find rest. So even if you're sleeping, if you are on holiday, even if you're on leave, you literally feel guilt for taking rest or being away. So you're always thinking like, oh my gosh, did I leave everything correctly? Did I leave, hand over notes to my colleagues? Will that project go well, for example, if you're not there? And then what actually you find yourself, okay, at least for me, what has happened is you don't leave, especially when there's something very important going on. So, and I was like, actually, I don't think I've really spoken about this, about how to live with anxiety, especially if you're a high, someone who's high performer. And Jerry, and Jerry, my social media manager, literally called me neurotic. So I think that's a good way of calling you crazy, but in a nice way. And but she's like, no, not in an anal way, in a nice way, like, but you're type A. And I'm like, yeah, I am type A. I own that 100%, 100,000%. I do own that. But truly, especially if you're struggling with anxiety, you know how debilitating can be. You can literally freeze up and not do what you want to do, or you can have a plan in your mind for years and not execute it, e.g., for example, this podcast. And I think if you don't know what I'm talking about, please go back to the first ever episode where I spoke about how I literally had this idea in my head for not less than 5 years, and I never executed it. And actually, we're just talking with the team right now. And I said, the only reason actually I started it is they posted it. And it's like, oh, teasers coming soon. And I'm like, coming soon? I was just doing like a pilot for proof of that it can exist. So if you want to thank people, thank the Hurry Studios team, thank Terry specifically, thank whoever decided to post those videos. And then everyone came on to my inbox and asked me, when are you launching the podcast? And literally, that's how we started this platform. So basically, anxiety is not fun. And I think people just talk about it as, oh, it's just you panicking and overthinking and that's it. But sometimes it can really get bad in terms of where it paralyzes you and you freeze up and you literally don't know how to move forward. I found myself in situations, especially with my day job, where and sometimes I do work from home, whereby I was even telling the team again earlier, is that my work desk is in the living room. So when things get a bit too heavy, I either leave completely the house. And then I think there's a time on social media and my stories, I literally posted myself outside, seated on a rock, eating miwa. Yes, I was eating sugarcane and the sun was burning me like this straight to my scalp and my forehead. And just because I was so overwhelmed, and it just felt so heavy. And I just needed to get away from that environment. So I went and sat down outside with my friend who sells the miwa. And I had some time off to blow some steam. And I felt better. Or sometimes what I do is I literally go to my room, go inside the covers and hide there for a couple of minutes and just breathe. So And where does this come from? From as long as I can remember, it's just, wanting to be perfect. Perfectionism. Sometimes even in terms of like the feedback I've gotten even from my day job and work is that, sometimes I can delay executing something because of that perfectionism, asking questions, asking again, that type A thing. Like it's great because you'll get things done and you'll always see the loopholes, but to what extent, like at what point do you say, okay, we are ready? And what has helped me do that is timelines, like for example, and deadlines. But then that's what causes anxiety because you're just like, are we ready? Oh my gosh, is this document ready? Do we have the flowers that we need? What if it rains? That time is January and there's drought in the country. What if the winds come and blow up the tent? Just some neurotic, crazy ideas and thoughts come up in your head. And I've just realized, even as I speak about this, I'm not necessarily quite comfortable about it because I'm like, how do I even approach this topic of discussion? Um, and and why is it so important? Because I think, especially in the fast-paced world we live in, we're trying to juggle so many things and you don't realize that probably what you're dealing with is anxiety. And for some people it gets so bad that obviously they have to take medication to manage that. There was a time I did consider that, but I have found some tools which I will speak about that do help, at least help me plan and keep my mind very focused. So where did this stem from? I think it's just the idea of being perfect. I was brought up, raised and brought up in a very, 844 Kenyan system. So you had to do what you had to do. There's severe punishment. For example, if you don't finish your homework on time, if you don't turn in your assignment by 12 midnight, you're just there locking in on your knees with your laptop trying to submit a certain piece of work to your lecturer. And I mean, I think it just raised my levels of anxiety and worry. So I never wanted to fail. I always wanted to do well. So that's why, if you ask me, I think my anxiety is what propelled me to even do well in school, like academically. So it wasn't necessarily, I was so passionate about education and I want to read. It's just like my fear of failure surpassed anything else that I was feeling, and I just had to study. Which reminds me, there's a time a friend of mine, she reminded me, I think we're in fifth grade, and that time it was called GHC, Mumbi. It was not social studies or whatever they're calling it. It's called GHC, Geography, History, and Civic Education. I remember we had not done well around a topic for, I think, just our traditions, the Bantu, the Nilotes, the Kushites, something like that. And I think it was around fifth grade. And it was break time, and it was just before break time we had that class. And then break time came, and then I was just so stressed. I was like, what does this mean? What do you mean we don't know? And then we had failed, especially in that area. So my friend comes and gets me, shout out to Nikki, and then she's like, oh, let's go out and play. I'm like, no, girl, let's sit down right now and figure out a plan on how we're going to understand this thing and start studying. And then she was like, maybe not. Maybe we can deal with that later and we can just go and play. It's break time. Um, and I've just realized that that's been my reality to date. Living life and finding joy and finding rest without the feelings of guilt, especially when you feel like, no, but there's a big project that I'm doing. No, but there's this and X and Y and Z that is incomplete. No, but what about A, B, C, and D? So sometimes it's not even necessarily the work itself, it's just the thoughts around it. And therefore, there's feelings of guilt that carried. And sometimes the best thing you need to do is just get out and, get some air and see some green and, touch grass and all the above. But you feel such an overwhelming sense of guilt and almost like you don't even deserve that. How dare you? For you to be getting fresh air, and there's this project that is coming up, etc. So it's almost like you're in a little prison in your mind where you don't even give yourself permission to leave. You don't give yourself permission to rest. It's almost like, how dare you wake up? So I'm just thinking, but maybe that's also trauma because of how our 844 system was set up. If anyone who has been in 844, you know this saying that our teachers used to say: a little sleep, a little slumber does what? Yeah, basically, you will be poor, you have no future, you're a failure, all of that. So you live and find, I don't know, maybe the Gen Z and the other generation are a bit healed. But for millennials, we don't know how to rest properly. Oh, sleeping in is almost like what? I remember the first time I probably slept in peacefully was when I moved out of home. Because also when you're home, you have to wake up, you do the chores, you do one, two, three. There's no ati just relaxing over there. And there's things to be done. So anxiety for me has just come up in so many ways. It's in daily life. It's in work. It's in things that are important. It's in like not enjoying the process. My day job, obviously involves planning a lot, doing a lot, and I've realized that it's taken the joy away from me. For example, we want to plan an event for the podcast, and that has not been enjoyable for me at all. I'm overthinking everything. Will the weather be great? Are we doing the right thing? This is the right theme? Who are we gonna invite? Is anyone even gonna come? Is this the right venue? Is this the right price point for like a ticket? Like, and I'm just like, yeah, I don't think I don't think I wanna do that. It's overwhelming. I'm like, I don't wanna do it. And then it's your thing. You can't run away. You have to take responsibility for that. So it also takes away the joy from things. I've also realized it's taken the joy from like planning, like like my personal birthday parties. The last time I planned one was for my 30th, and that was it. Maybe the next one will be when I'm 40. And that one was so stressful. I'm not too sure I enjoyed. I think I started enjoying when I started drinking wine. Yeah. That's when I was like, okay, this is fun. But before that, even minutes before, I'm like, am I wearing the right dress? Is my makeup okay? But funny enough, I'm the planner for others, right? So, and I think this episode will also really resonate with a friend of mine called June because she's also the same. She's a firstborn daughter. She's also neurotic, in the words of Jerry, and but she's fabulous. But it's also like a burden. It's something that you live with, and you want everything to go right. And especially if something goes wrong, you also punish yourself. Like, what would I have done better? What would I have done to prevent ABC? So now it doesn't help. It contributes to the overthinking, which obviously leads to burnout. Just sucking the joy out of something that should have been fun and, enjoying the process and not necessarily having everything figured out. It can lead to you also not being able to go after your dreams and your ambitions because you can't see the full staircase. You can't see exactly what this is supposed to be. So even for me, like, starting the podcast, it was like a step of faith. And even every day that I come and step into the studio, it's like, okay, so what is this supposed to be? You have thoughts of where it can grow. You have thoughts on how it can, transform and morph into something that is wholesome and, something that makes sense and is also helpful to other people. And for me, especially if you do struggle with anxiety, I feel like this is when you really need to surround yourself with people who will help you get out of your own head. You need to be with people who will believe in you and just quiet the noise and help you quiet the noise. And you need a safe landing where you can be honest about exactly how you feel. I'll go back to the podcast. This is something that genuinely I always, I go back to the team. I'm like, are we good? What do you think? Someone like Jerry again, who I said is my social media manager, she really pushes me. All the cool things you see me try and do on social, that's all her. Trust me, that would never be me. But it's such a joy also surrounding yourself with such fresh energy, being open to trying because you will be, like I said, you can find yourself trapped in your own prison of just doing things the way is like a safe bet, like a sure bet. And if you're not careful, it can take away the magic, your magic of expression, of creativity, of just being a human being who is deeply flawed and layered and just that individualism. And I know also social media really contributes a lot to that. So for me, this is for all the high achievers, especially those who deal with anxiety. And I just want to say it's okay that you are not broken, that you are not messed up, that you are not you it doesn't mean you're less than. It only means that you care. And when you care, it matters. And when it matters, that means the stakes are high. And so what that says to me is that you just need to be present in the today. There's a quote I really love that says that, wherever you are, be all there. So, for example, when I come to the shoots, I have learned how to separate from, the things that have to do with my day job and things that have to do with this. But, in the beginning, it was very hard for me because I'm thinking, oh my gosh, did I defrost the chicken? Now, what will I go and have in the evening? Ooh, there's that work project thing, blah, blah, blah. And then this will stop being fun. This is my way. The reason I started the podcast in the first place was for this to be a place for me to express myself and to have like another creative space where I can, talk about my experiences and what I'm going through and connect with other people who are going through the same. So if I start making it like into this thing, like I have to do, it will take away the joy from that. And that's what I'm saying. You need to be careful. So, but anyway, one of the things and some of the tools that have helped me, like I mentioned before, is having a to-do list. The team were laughing at me and they were saying that I'm old. Hey, today I've gone through the things that they've told me. But I was telling them I put everything on the calendar. I know exactly what I'm doing over the weekends in December this year. We're currently in November. So, and I know, and that's so that I'm not overwhelmed and also I don't double book. Okay. So if you tell me, oh, Mokami, are you free on the 13th of December? I'm like, no, I'm actually going for this concert. Or are you free on this? I'm like, oh yeah, but only in the morning hours. So it also helps me organize my brain. I literally write everything down. Even for my waxing appointment with Monica, my wax lady is called Monica. Wax appointment with Monica at 10 a.m. written down in my diary. Ice cream with Mumbi Friday, 5 p.m. And it looks like it's kind of crazy, but I think it just helps you organize your mind and you know exactly what is needed and required of you. Also, when it comes to work, I also do the same. I have a to-do list. I also journal, especially when I just have a lot in my brain. I feel like, oh my God, I have so much that I'm doing. I actually write it down. I'm like, okay, so exactly what is filling up my brain? Project A, project B, hang out with friends, social appointment with gynecologist, da. Like I write everything down, like I just do a dump. And then you realize it's like, it's actually five things that have been looping in your mind over and over again. And that's why you've been feeling overwhelmed. And then from there, at least you're able to prioritize. It's like, okay, maybe I can move my appointment with my gynecologist to next week. This week I have to deal with project A because it's due this, da. So it can seem very neurotic and type A, but especially if you're dealing with anxiety, the uncertainty is what throws us off. And it's what makes us go into overthinking. And especially if you're someone who is a high achiever and you want to do things well. And not just to do things, just to do things and do them well. Also sharing with friends or people who you trust. I've also realized, especially for someone who deals with anxiety, is you keep a lot in your head. Like you have a whole universe in your mind, but a problem shared is a problem half solved. So sometimes all you need to do is tell your friend, like, hey, I'm going through this and this and this. Oh, it's like, oh, I know a guy who knows a guy, and somehow you get help, but you wouldn't get that support that you need unless you actually communicate and speak and get help. And another thing that everyone says is cliche, especially to millennials, which is therapy. Genuinely seeking help because there's some wounds that are deeper. There's some people who struggle with anxiety because of, either abuse or neglect when they were younger or something traumatic that happened in their lives where they are so scared to move and they're constantly overthinking. So, that's a form of healing that you also need to get. So those are some of the things that have helped me, some of the processes that I've gone through. I remember even there was an episode, obviously, that I spoke on about rest, and I spoke about just the guilt of it. And I don't think I touched on the other emotion that, I felt or I feel, especially when it comes to rest or enjoying things when things are heavy or busy, which is anxiety. And that's what I'm speaking about today. So if you're a high achiever, again, I said you're not crazy. It's also a superpower. It means you're type A, you're neurotic, you're a good planner. You are able to find loopholes where there are none. You're able to think a bit extra, but then there needs to be a balance so that you also don't lose your mind. And it means that you care. It means that you care. And this is also something that we discuss in depth with a friend of mine called Faith. And she's also the same. I thought I was an overthinker until I met her, and I was like, no, no, no. You thought you could see a catastrophe. She can see the end of the world. So make sure that you're sharing with other people who care about you and also can give you a safe space. And sometimes just remove what you're having here in your mind to paper, to another person. And I believe your load will be a bit lighter as you find ways to navigate. And even if you go to a therapist or psychologist, a psychiatrist, and you're put on meds, that's okay. That means your brain, your nervous system just needs a bit of extra help. But everything to make sure that you're good and you're functioning as, just a healthy person who is happy and well. So please share with me your experiences, if you've had any, especially when anxiety has really debilitated you and you've not been able to move. It's made you freeze, it's made you not go after opportunities and things, and how you were able to navigate that. Maybe even just listening to this episode has made you realize that actually what I have been dealing with is anxiety and not just normal panic. And I just wish you healing on your journey as you find yourself and as you navigate anxiety. All my love to you. Thank you so much for being here. I hope you're following us on all our social media pages. That is at OMG Another Podcast. We are also available for all episodes on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, and YouTube. Make sure you like, subscribe, comment. Please interact with us on also on our socials. We'd love, 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 love to hear from you. And thank you so much for being here and being a part of the community. Mwah. Sending all my love.